Hi, I am Keith Bailey. I'm the interpretive ranger and curator here at Etowah Indian Mounds. And today we're going to be talking about the defensive ditch that you can see down here behind me, and basically the construction of the mounds and how the defensive ditch down here was utilized to basically create the village that would have been here. So the mounds behind me and behind the defensive ditch would have been the downtown main part of the town. However, out in front of me here and out to the sides around the park would have been other village areas. So what you see is a stratified society with the defensive ditch and a wall that would have been on the other side back here as basically the means of separating the different classes of people. So basically the Native Americans picked this site along the river, and they create an arc along the river, usually where a major stream comes in, and they're going to use a fish trap in the river to collect food. They're going to use the water to drink, and then you've got the defensive ditch to protect them from outside forces, whether it's invading other people or if it's wild animals, or in this case also flood control. And so you see the whole town being constructed this way. To dig this defensive ditch, Native Americans a very long time ago would have taken wood tools with stone ends and shells that would have been borrowed off the coast to basically dig into the ground, and they would have removed that dirt in baskets. So what you see is you've got your top ground level with topsoil, and as you go further down you eventually get to bedrock, and in between that you have all kinds of rocks and sand and silt. So those different materials are useful for different things. So as the Native Americans dug down into this, if they happened to run across clay and they were wanting to use that clay to build pottery, it would have been used for pottery. If they ran across some stones, they may have used it to put around their fires inside of their houses, the wattle and daub huts, and they may have also used that clay to build the daub that they put on their huts. So with clay being one of those main components, one of those main materials that you're finding in the defensive ditch as you're excavating it out, what you're going to do is you're going to realize that certain qualities of clay are better for certain things. So one clay may not have all the right stuff, and you may use that for the wattle and daub, where you mix the grass in with it and use it to pack on the outside of your hut to help keep out wind. But then you have other clay that is really fine and better suited for making pottery. So the Native Americans here, they made pottery, and they also made clay figurines and other things that you would be able to see in the museum. But with the pottery, they're going to mold the pots, usually through coil pottery. So they would roll out coils and run it around and smooth it off. And then you've got different types of decorations that you're going to use. So you may just take a stick that you've carved into a point and carve designs into the pottery. Other Native Americans were carving wooden paddles and carving designs in it so that they could stamp it into the wet clay. Then you've got certain other minerals that are found in the area not too far from here. You've got ochre, which is a type of powdered iron ore that makes a red, basically a glaze. And then you've got kaolin and graphite in the area. So lots of red and white pottery, lots of stamped pottery, incised pottery where they've carved it, and lots of unique designs. And you can use those designs to see basically where they're trading with other people, some close distance and some far away as Texas and up at the Great Lakes. So the oldest part of the town that we know of was dated to around 850 AD, and then around 1000 AD we see that the people here became an important enough location that the people were allowed to build the mounds that you see behind us. So around 1000 AD, the people started constructing this building, and they were removing the dirt across the field to build these mounds that you see back here. They are laid out very precisely, so the Native Americans would use sticks and string and different colors of soil, maybe some white soil they could mark the ground with, and they would then start to build the mounds with those baskets of dirt with nice angles and perfectly flat tops. We don't know all the tools that they were using, but they were able to accomplish this. So what we see is we see The largest mounds are being used and constructed for political leaders, the chiefs and shamans, to live on. You've got another mound that most likely was the seat of power for their council house. And then you have a third mound in the back that's being used as a mortuary, something similar to what we would think of as a modern funeral home. Before any of these mounds were constructed, you see houses that were probably there, and then when those houses were no longer useful, when the area was filled up and the people wanted to show their status off, these buildings would be demolished, and more dirt would be dumped on top, so the mounds would get larger. So over time, you see the mounds raising higher into the sky, larger at the base, until you get to a point where our largest mound, Mound A, is the second tallest mound in the United States from the Mississippian time period. It's basically as tall as a 6-story building, about 3 acres at the base. Think about how many baskets of dirt. You're talking about a massive amount of dirt. So besides our defensive ditch, we also have some borrow pits, and there again, the people are borrowing that dirt, the clay, the rocks, any of the material in there for multiple purposes, and including constructing a drainage system so that the flood waters, when it rains and the river floods, or you just have large showers, it doesn't completely flood the village. You're looking at the defensive ditch being able to fill up almost completely with water, and then 6 to 8 inches of water being able to evaporate and percolate into the ground, so that within a week you basically have a dry defensive ditch, or dry moat again. And with all those trade relations, sometimes you have trade relations that break down. And so here we have the defensive ditch behind us that is there to help protect that village once again from anybody who may not be happy with those relations, and it's there to protect the people.